Oh, fantastic. Okay, now it's up. Sometimes when I sign on to this thing, it just it doesn't give me a an audio connection. I'm gonna have to handhold this. I'm running for the sun. I don't have any window shades on my skylights, and this time of year the sun comes blazing right on the desktop, so I can't see the screen or anything. Uh, okay, let me see. Anne Marie is going to be late. She'll be back in at 8:30. We'll give Wendy a second to come sign on here. I'm going to give Wendy a text real quick, if I may.
I see Wendy now.
Yes. And you're lucky I haven't started drinking heavily. Oh boy. It's here. Yeah, Ryan's here. Amazing. Yeah, just for fun, I've been trying to download all those wonderful resources that they told us about at the CAI meeting yesterday.
What resources?
Well, like, there's this, which I've just been trying to download. There's a number of places where it says coming soon. I'm trying to find the thing that says how you actually do this if you're a CAI.
We should probably wait till the agenda item since it's probably on there as a thing. So let's just wait till the agenda item
Are we,
because we'll probably have to discuss.
are we live now?
I am
Yep.
back in and I have audio now, so we
Okay.
can proceed. Okay,
All right.
just in terms of attendance, Tony has a conflicting meeting, so he sent his regrets. Anne Marie will sign back in at 8:30, I believe, and she turned the helm over to Brian. So I think we are set to go.
Okay.
Yep. Want me to choose the host to somebody? I'm not in the most stable location right now.
None of us are.
I'll choose it to Bob. There you go.
Okay. Okay, I have control right now.
Yes.
Okay, very good, for what that's worth. Okay, first order of business after the call to order and attendance. The next is minutes.
Haven't finished them. I'm sorry.
yeah.
We'll have to do
Okay.
it next time.
Okay. No worries right now. Review of any public correspondence. Wendy, would you like? I'm going to rule that your correspondence with the open meeting people is in fact open correspondence. And could you give us a précis of what your question was and what the discussion was and their response?
Once over lightly, and may not. I don't think I got the full answer of what I was trying to ask, but I wanted to know whether, if when you guys met with the MBI and Senator Moran's office, or under the aegis of Senator Moran's office, whether that constituted a requirement for the open meeting law if both sides weren't weren't subject to the open meeting law or to the idea of quorum. And the answer I got back wasn't that helpful with respect to that, but it did have some other interesting things.
So I guess, why would there be a question there? I mean, there was no quorum of any public body.
Well, I understand that, but if my question was, if there were a quorum of only one public body, quote unquote, was that still subject to
Yes.
the open meeting law?
I think it's pretty clear the answer to that is yes.
But it's their
Well, that's-
responsibility. If it's the other body, it's their responsibility to notice it. We don't have any obligation as participants in the meeting to notice it unless we also potentially exceed a quorum.
Totally
if
agree,
we-
Bob. Yep,
and-
totally agree.
And not only that, but if our participants participate in it as discussants or people deliberating, as opposed to just listening in for information and as a one-way feed from that organization to us. Do you agree, Jed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the second part that I asked them about, because I believe we got an opinion from someone who was, shall we say, underinformed, that if we attended something like one of their meetings, one of the MBI meetings that was open to the public, the quorum thing does not apply to us because we are allowed to attend as members of the public.
Yes.
If it's information gathering, that's correct, as long as there's no deliberation.
Yeah, let's say, for example, it's a very big room and a
Uh-huh.
quorum of our committee is in the room, but we're all seated in different locations and we enter and exit without gathering together, then that's clearly not a quorum.
We were
If we meet-
talking specifically about a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
where people, I've seen them get into trouble in some of the questions that have been put to the Attorney General's office is when they go into a big meeting and they don't sit near each other, they just listen, and then they go out in the parking lot and caucus.
Mhm.
There's been a couple of open meeting law violation or complaints, I guess, on that particular situation. And it turned out that the group together, they weren't talking about committee items, but the four of them got together as a quorum So it was kind of a gray area. The Zoom meeting to me is even easier because you can see it.
I'm with you, Jed, but you know, we got an opinion from somebody in Bourne government that
Did
said
they
that we
send it
could
to
not have,
us?
that we could not have, we could not attend as greater than a quorum in a Zoom meeting, and that's
Now, did they
nonsense.
send that to us as a public correspondence?
No, but I think it was mentioned in one of our committee meetings that gets recorded.
And we didn't talk about it? That doesn't seem right. Really?
I'm with you. That's why I asked.
I didn't realize that. I remember Gary Maloney bringing some stuff up along those lines, but I thought we cleared all of those.
We've been very careful. For instance, I don't go to
Yeah.
the Cape Cod Tech Council meetings because I did once, and it turned out there were more of us than would have made a quorum, and I just left. We
Yeah,
discussed it
I
before the
agree
meeting
with
started.
John. I think we're clean.
Yeah, I think we generally
Okay.
been erring on the side of caution until we knew better. So
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody can show us a clip from a meeting where we stepped over the line, and I'm not aware of it.
No. Every meeting we've had has been public for since
Yeah.
the committee
So I
was
mean, and
organized.
so it'd be obvious if we did, and I haven't seen any, somebody needs to show us the clip of the meeting, and
Okay.
that's my opinion anyway.
I'll be ready to vigorously defend us based on this and other discussions if somebody makes a complaint like that. I as chair, but that frankly could be a tactic to basically just draw attention away from the merits of whatever we're working on. So again, I'll be very vigorous in terms of defending us if that comes up. So okay, we're done with that as open correspondence. The next, I want to go to item 4, and let's. Do we have anything to discuss about the digital equity plan and implementation? I have not heard anything from the town about how they are going to spend those funds. Anybody else hear anything?
And as far as
This
we know, they're not gonna consult us.
We will learn after the fact.
Okay.
And if anybody hears through the rumor mill or whatever about how this is being expended, feel free to exchange it during this agenda item at any of the future meetings. Next, the American Connection Corps. I think there's kind of agreement in principle, but no real activity that the select board may choose to ask the administrator to make use of a Connection Corps person if that person is seated at or housed or whatever at the Cape Cod Commission. So if in our contacts with the commission, if we hear anything about that, we should find out who that person is, what their skills are, et cetera, and urge the administrator to make use of those, at least perhaps for digital equity or anything else that's going on. Okay, GAP round 2.
Just quick question, Bob. Did we skip over the bee challenge for some
we
reason?
sure did.
Oh, the bee challenge. Excuse me. I'm sitting here fighting sun reflections. Yes. The latest I have, I copied a few of you. I've been trying to get information from Jen Brand about their supposed Monday morning coordination calls about implementing this. And we've had 2 Mondays pass since they said they're going to be meeting every Monday. And she got back to me Monday morning prior to 9 a.m. and said it wasn't happening the other day, which would have been the 10th, and said essentially manana, next Monday, there will be a call and we will be informed. So we will stay tuned. The next option, and
I was
go
going to
ahead.
say, should we recap our meeting with MBI? You
Yes.
and Brian were
Oh,
on call
yeah.
with MBI.
Yeah. Let's.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go through that.
I went to the CAI meeting, and that was interesting.
Well, let's go through both of them.
Senator Moran's aide convened this meeting, and we hit them with a bunch of very detailed questions, and we got more vague than detailed answers back. I think that's fair to say, Brian. But a couple of things. We made a couple of points.
We mostly got commitments to get some stuff as opposed to information.
Right. One commitment that we got, for those of you who hadn't heard the or seen the recording of their rollout of description of their site, their upload site, one of the tools they have there is the ability of a user to draw polygons on the map around presumed places with underserved individuals. And we asked the very pointed question, well, gee, if an area challenge is based on census block groups, why don't you have a default that has a polygon around each census block group? And they said, oh, that's an idea. Presumably they're going to try to implement something like that, because that would be the most useful visual piece of information for us at any time as this thing goes along. I think this is going to be real time. Brian, I haven't figured out if they filter the data to say that it's valid or not valid. How long is that going to take? I forgot to ask that question. If they take 3 weeks vetting the data before they put it up on their database, it's of absolutely no use to us.
Right.
Are you talking in regard to CAIs or for the challenge, or which portion of this mess?
Well, I was thinking of the challenge. You know, if the data are being accumulated and challenge data are being put up after they've been deemed valid by what the vetting process that MBI is going to go through, how long is that vetting process going to take? Yeah, you know, if we don't see whether the challenge was valid until after the 20th of July, then it's of absolutely no use in terms of us taking actionable responses. Did you get any?
We're essentially getting no support from MBI on this. No consulting resources, no help. Their tools are not useful to us. You know, so we essentially have to gather the speed tests ourselves and submit them to their portal. So, you know, if we encourage citizens to use the MBI's tool, we're going to run into issues where we can't see who's put in what and what blocks have been flipped. So we really just have to go get the speed test ourselves, go get the consents, go get the bills, and drop them in, and kind of keep an eye on it, or and or work with the commission to do it, because we're not getting any support from MBI.
Well, either we do it ourselves, or we rely on the Open Cape Cod Commission Consortium.
Yeah, that's true. It was as that becomes available, that would be the primary tool, or we got to be ready to spin up a Google form with encryption and just do it. So, but what MBI had kept saying they were going to give us resources, but we come to find out there's not really anything. The only resource was a consultant for random citizens who put in speed tests and don't send them through the towns or another qualified entity. So we basically left high and dry by MBI. It's the cliff notes.
Well,
One thing that
I'm sorry,
go ahead, Jed.
I was going to say, just in general, the sense I got about all of this is that MBI, all of these funding opportunities really aren't set up for a town like Bourne, right? That they alluded to the fact that they're primarily interested in helping out the Western Mass towns that already had funding, right? That the gap funding was essentially for them. And they also noted that a lot of the other funding really was for larger entities that could basically afford the co-payments, basically the co-funding. So and then as Brian's alluded to, they really don't have any kind of organizational setup to help a small town like Bourne. That's not really what they're set up to do. So for us to get involved in these things, as I think, as Brian said it, we're kind of on our own.
Yeah. If you want to see something that's really going to be designed to fail, to not be workable to thwart anybody who's trying to use it, you should have gone to the CAI meeting. It was amazing. I mean, not in a good way. They
Well-
blew through this stuff. I write quick, and they blew through this stuff so fast that I couldn't take notes to do this adequately. And I could see that, as you were saying, not just a town like Bourne, but almost anybody is going to have a hell of a time giving them any kind of stuff that would be acceptable, which then means they can just rebut it, and there is no appeal for any rebuttals, which is kind of entertaining. The timelines are ridiculous. And every time people asked a question about, well, when's this going to be available? It said, oh, well, that'll be coming in the coming weeks. And I looked at my calendar and I said, according to my calendar, we have 10 days.
Yeah, just
So,
like, for example, they expected us to get a lawyer retained and to write an agreement,
Oh, yeah.
data consent agreement times, however many towns in Massachusetts in days. Like, we can't get
Oh,
consent
yeah.
for town council without going over the select board. That takes 3 weeks, and then the council takes, a time, which is, I'm not saying that's a flaw. I'm just saying that's the design of the small
Right.
town government. And they had, they clearly had no exposure whatsoever to a town
They
about
have-
this.
They have requirements for the CAIs to prove that they are, in fact, CAIs. And they're ludicrous. I mean, you got to prove who owns the property and what their mission statement is, and if they are primarily or not even primarily, if they are involved in supporting people who don't have access to broadband at their site. So, for example, the library. But there are plenty of other places that need to be able to support their users with broadband. For example, a medical clinic that needs to do telehealth, and there's no way for them to get approved for that, it seems, by the way they were describing it. Also, I put in a question that said, what happens when these organizations don't have enough broadband to do any of this? How do they participate in this CAI challenge process? And there was like, well, or they'll have to go online and do something. And I'm thinking, did you not hear what I said? They're going to have to find somebody else to do it for them, and I'm thinking, and how do they do that? And in 8 days, 9 days, 10 days. It was just ludicrous. And I've been trying, I went into to their website this morning to try to find the things that were going to be there. The challenge portal user guide is there, and I've got that in PDF. That's 28 pages. Evidence submission guidelines, which are absolutely critical, and that says coming soon. And they told us yesterday that it was going to be up, already. And then there's separate ones for the MDU challenges and then an overview flyer and a community and institutions flyer. I haven't been able to download any of those, even though they're listed as existing. So, this is just it's a feature, not a bug, as far as I can tell. This is nonsense.
Wendy, could you list the link for that in the chat so I can have a look at it?
The link for
For
what?
CAI? Yeah, well, you just
I'd
said there's a
love
link
to.
with
There isn't one for CAI that I can find. I can give you a link for the list of things that they say they're going to have for people.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I just want to get a look. I wasn't aware of. I'm not up to date on all that. I just wanted to see what they were saying.
Stand by. Coming up. Where's my chat? Here you go. That's the landing page, the vaunted landing page that's supposed to be the answer to all our questions.
Oh, I got it. I see it. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, and good luck. I mean, really, they were, in fact, I've submitted, I think 4 or 5 questions, 3 anonymously and 2 with my name on them. I was listening on my phone and watching on my iPad so I could sort of coordinate this without disturbing all the people around my where I was sitting, because I can hear through into my hearing aids directly from my phone, so nobody else can hear it. And they did not take verbal questions, obviously, and they didn't have a chat feature so everybody could see what was being submitted. There was only, a place where you could submit your question. And so I put in 5 of them, and they did at least address them. They didn't answer them, but they did address them. And the fact that they got to all of mine and they read them verbatim tells me that one of 2 things is possible. One is that they were looking for me, and I find that very difficult to believe because I know I'm a pain in the neck, but I don't think they would target me in that way personally. And the other is that there wasn't anybody else attending, which wouldn't surprise me at all, especially for CAIs that can't get online, that have no broadband, and that probably didn't even know about these things. So that was my experience, and I have a lot of notes if anybody's interested in hearing some of them, that some of the examples they gave on how to for a CAI to do what they have to do. And the maps have little triangles on them if they're approved as a CAI, or they're little green circles if they aren't. And red triangles means they're not served, and and an unmarked building is the other way, and there's a link, and blah 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 blah. And I'm thinking a CAI worth its salt doesn't have time to do all this foolishness. And if it's like a government CAI, we already know that Town Hall has told us they don't have anybody that can do this or spend the time on this. And they're not willing to accept our help in doing it for them, or even sitting at somebody's elbow. So I don't see how this is possible. And maybe I'm just too pessimistic.
Well, does anybody see a way forward where we can facilitate increasing the number of CAIs reasonably with these rules stacked against us?
Yes.
Brian, go ahead.
I was just going to make a donation to my GIS guy to help dig up some of the data, and then we just need a portal access. Need to submit the list. We can get some of this stuff can be automated because you can get who owns parcel data. So we need a list of like what data needs to be grabbed. We've been given access to the assessor's office before to get the master CSV file of the town. We could reference who owns what based on, if the maps are dated end of December 2023, just, get the data from the same date or whatever the rules say, and we look up and move it around.
Brian,
a lot of work, but could be done.
But they won't take this information from just anybody. You have to register to input approved data, and the registration process is a whole nother ball of wax. I mean, you and I
Why can't we just register as the committee? We're the CTAC committee charged with these problems. The town
we would have to demonstrate that we had governmental standing to do that, and we sort of do, but we would probably have to get documentation from the select board allowing us to do that as a part of the town. And then when it comes to the actual data being submitted by the CAI, they can't just submit it directly. They have to submit it to somebody like, Open Cape, if they ever get their act together, to be an approved aggregator, for lack of a better term. It's just, there's layers upon layers upon layers of foolishness in this.
Yeah.
And that's
we just need our own account and just start loading them. I've already got a list started of them.
Well, we can certainly do that, but
Brian,
then maybe we can get somebody to lean on MBI to accept it from multiple sources.
Brian, first of all, I want to just table this discussion of bits until Anne Marie comes back on to see if she thinks we need select board approval to when we eventually submit. The second point is there's a database called mass GIS that has multiple layers. For every parcel there, you can pull up the tax assessor's card on it. Okay, which lists the name of the owning entity and other information on it. So that's the assessor's database directly connected to a GIS map, and presumably that those layers and the themes are publicly accessible as opposed to just by users. So that might have a good amount of the information available that could be just pulled right off of those maps. Or I think there might be lists that one can do that. I am not a GIS person, so other than being a ignorant user, I just see the potential that's there, and it's mostly done already, and that's statewide. And somebody who could perhaps point us to that, how to do it, would be David Still. I'm sure he accesses this database frequently. And it's a matter of
You would-
finding out whether all of the attributes that are required for listing as a CAI are in fact available or closely available on this database, and what other ones we need to access to do this.
Yeah,
I
MBI
think-
has to approve this listing before they'll accept any data at all.
You mean
first
we
they
can
have to-
approve us as a submitter?
they have to adjudicate whether the CAI is a real CAI based on what we send them, or what somebody sends them, or what the approved sender sends them. And then
Well, we can go to their
you
office
know.
hours and run run
yeah.
a sample by them and show them, will you accept X, and then just replicate it.
Their office hours, good. Thank you for bringing that up. They posted what the office hours were going to be for this process. One was for a day that's already passed. The other two is it's 1 hour twice in the next 3 weeks. That's what they posted. And I said, really? Is somebody going to answer the phone? And they said, no, you'll have to submit stuff, in writing, and they'll respond. And I said, what happens if you get flooded with so many things that 1 hour twice? Oh, well, we can look at that and see what happens. And it beggars the
infuriating.
imagination.
It's just infuriating, but we have to figure out, okay, what do we do to move forward?
Again, the crucial thing I'm concerned about is we've got 6 of us on the committee. When the testing itself gets going, we will presumably have some data that starts to come back, that in a perfect world, Open Cape and David Still and the commission can look at and say, okay, here's how the census block groups are populating with what appear to be underserved people. We have a census block group where we've got 3, we need 3 more. Then, frankly, it's up to us to figure out, either individually or through the media or something, how to bang on doors to get people to do testing by the 16th or 17th of July at the latest, or to start the testing.
Right, and I heard what the select board said about your use of the flashing sign at Belmont Circle that I had suggested. Despite the fact that they said it was for town police use only, I don't know if that includes the dog license thing they ran for about 6 weeks.
Oh yeah, the
Where they were
police
urging
and the
people to
dog
get
licenses.
to get the
They
dog license.
They specified the dog licenses. That was
Right.
important.
So I kind of looked at this as this is a town function, but I obviously, I watched that meeting, and obviously the town administration and select board didn't agree. The only other thing I can think of, I just don't know. I mean, we put stuff out in the Enterprise and the Cape Cod Times, but I think that really the readership in Bourne is probably lower than it is on the Facebook page. Other than a direct mailing, I'm not sure how you reach people, honestly.
What kind of events are coming up in the next 3 weeks where we could have a
Strawberry
table?
Festival.
What's coming up?
Strawberry Festival.
Ooh, okay.
And also the I'm not sure when the concerts start over in the park over in Buzzards Bay. Those very nice evening concerts they have on Thursday nights, I believe. Those draw
thought-
nice crowds. In fact,
I
that's
thought-
right. Yeah.
I thought I heard that they start July, again, just listening
Yeah.
peripherally on the select board last night, or 2 nights ago, they start July 12th.
So that's at
We
least give you a
still, we
week.
still don't have their guidelines for what they will consider as acceptable evidence. There's a link there to, you know, or there's a listing of the evidence guidelines, and it says coming soon, but it's not here. We still don't know what they're even going to accept. How can we publicize to people what to do when they won't even tell us?
Oh, and another thing, yeah. The July 4th parade was apparently just approved. And I don't know if there's any way to hand out anything there.
Oh, sure. I mean, we can
We
always.
might need to circle back to Moran's office as well with some of these, you know, because the MBI left us with more questions than answers. So we might need to keep the pressure on them to, you know, release data because, you know, like there's not enough information, there's not enough time. It's unreasonable and it's designed to fail. It's you know, the whole program is designed to fail and divert the money to digital equity programs.
Mm-hmm. If somebody in Moran's office has the 45 minutes to listen to the CAI presentation, at least, that is supposed to be accessible. They did record it, and they'll be stunned. I was stunned. I was expecting something useful. Silly
And
me.
they really need to stop doing these webinars because, like, you can't. They're screening out valid questions by this webinar format. You know, as we've already proven with you know, public records requests, they're only answering a quarter of the questions, and those answers are mostly we'll have that answer later.
Yeah,
So,
they
Yeah.
pat
this
you on the head
format
and say,
altogether
go
needs to
away.
be at this point, at this late in the game, they need to be facing the rage of all the towns yelling at them on a live call instead of this Q&A stuff. And that's the kind of thing we need higher up politicians to tell them to stop doing.
Any possibility the
okay.
Cape Cod Commission itself could possibly address the issue with them? Because that would represent the entire Cape.
I am not convinced that that Tupper necessarily would do that. And it'd be at his level, or you know, it could be Christy Senatori who does it, but I just don't think they're other than serving as a data aggregator and kind of a data portal, et cetera, data, you know, interim analyzer. I don't think they're going to be very reticent to be a political advocate, and frankly, that's what this is.
Would Sear
And
do
it
it?
is political.
Sear and
You know,
Moran?
say again.
Do we get Moran and Sear to jointly say something?
Who was
was
the
gonna-
lady who was on our call last Friday, Brian? What was her name? I'm trying to remember. I was watching her eyes get wider and wider every time we got a non-answer from somebody on an MBI.
I'm in an
Yeah, I'd like
elevator. Give me
I'd like
2
to get
minutes
in
to
touch
switch
with
to my
that
note.
lady also and tell her about the CAI thing.
Okay, Wendy, do you have a link? It's on the landing page, the recording of that CAI meeting.
Oh no,
Is it up?
no, it's not. It's no. The last recording there was from June 5th.
No, geez. Okay. Yeah, I'm willing to make a call to the lady at Moran's office. I just don't. I can't access her name right there, and just say, you know, we're just getting stonewalled.
Well, I seriously, I would like to at least talk to her about what I saw at the community anchor thing.
Let's
if you
get her.
can-
Let's get her name and just point out she was on the call with CAI. She facilitated, not CAI, with the MBI folks last Friday, and she facilitated putting that together. And they that was in place of a what was it? It was a Freedom of Information Act request that they said, oh, we got 6,000 pages of stuff to go through, and we don't have time.
It's
Mhm.
Nicole Manfredi from Senator Moran's
Nicole
office.
Manfredi.
Okay.
Wendy, can we delegate this to you, because Manfredi was on the call with us about the details of the challenge, and if at least the challenge testing. And if you want to give her a call and just ask her to look at the video of the CAI meeting and just say, we're just express the degree of frustration we're seeing here on this right now.
I think incredulity would be a good word. Yes.
Yes. Let's see. I want to welcome Anne Marie is back. Is that right? Let's see.
Yeah, she's there.
I am, thank you. Sorry. I didn't
No
want to Zoom
worries.
from the car. My morning was a little crazy, so I didn't want to Zoom while I'm driving. I don't like doing that.
No, stay safe. Stay safe. We're in the midst of a discussion right now about the lack of information we got last Friday in a call with MBI staff that Nicole Manfredi from Senator Moran's office convened for us in place of a Freedom of Information Act response. And the other was that on Monday, Wendy was on a call about community anchor institutions
No,
and
that
the
was
rules.
yesterday. It was Wednesday.
Yesterday.
It was yesterday. Yeah.
They're all blurring together. Sorry, I've got in private issues that are consuming 60 hours a week for me. But anyway, essentially the rules are stacked so that nothing qualifies as a community anchor institution. And if you do want to try to qualify something, you basically need to submit that organization needs to submit massive amounts of data or another entity. And our question to you, Anne Marie, is do you think it'd be acceptable to the select board if we started to aggregate some data on community anchor institutions and we submitted it to MBI for their approval, or at least their vetting? Brian has offered to hire, he's got a GIS consultant and query, among others, the existing Mass GIS maps and database. I presume you're familiar with those. I use them all the time anyway. That's got all the assessors data and other data on institutions, and try to get other information on that. A couple of examples. I would like to try to, wearing my other hat, put the Pecasset Village Association as a community anchor institution, since we've got 14 between 12-step and other self-help groups, most of which try to use the internet from the building in Pecasset. And it just seems from what I've seen of the rules, it's almost impossible to get all the information together. But
So are you saying you want to collect speed test data from those institutions to submit to
No, this is-
MBI, or you just want to collect, what type of data do you want to collect?
This is way beyond.
There's no
tests.
speed testing under community anchors. It's purely does it meet the definition? So like
They
medical,
want like
public
ownership
safety.
and
So
Yeah.
are you, so
community
what,
possession.
what's the purpose so that a anchor institution could apply for funding? Is that what the end goal is?
No.
So
to-
it allows a gig fiber to be built out to these institutions, with the idea being like spring little finger laterals out to the schools, the medical places, the doctor's offices, all the places, the communities that need addiction treatment. They had a list of them. And then that way the fiber is that much closer to the homes. And so it's kind of like a springboard for that. All of the providers, Verizon, Comcast, could apply for the money later. So just getting them on the list makes them funding eligible.
I see what
But
you're
even-
saying.
Anybody
but
to free game go at
Anne
them.
Marie, even to get them on the list,
Right.
MBI wants incredible documentation about who they are, where they are, who owns them, what services they actually provide. Do they do what we think they should do? If we're MBI, it's ridiculously
saying.
burdensome.
Okay.
It's crazy. And also they won't accept data from a lot from random sources. There's no way for example, for an individual doing a speed test to submit it to some aggregating thing that MBI will accept. They have to go to an approved, they don't use the word aggregator, but I can't think of a better one, an approved entity that will collect the data and then submit it to MBI, who will then decide whether to accept any or all of it. And it might
Right,
be nice
right.
if the select board could see its way clear to making us one of those aggregators on their behalf without having to come, go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That would streamline things some, especially since the timelines are ridiculous. We asked them yesterday, what happens when's this resource going to be available? Oh, that'll be available in the coming weeks. Well, by my calendar,
yeah.
the challenge process starts in 10 days.
So
So
effectively,
did
no
nothing
you-
isn't
resources. We're
helpful.
on our own.
Did anyone review the I had sent some slides of the online Zoom MBI workshop that they presented specifically to the B challenge process. Did anyone get a chance to
Yeah.
look at that? So technically individuals can go on the MBI landing page and they can do a speed test on that page.
but
What
tool's
happens
not
is
Good though.
if they can, once 6 individuals from a census block, it triggers the challenge, right? So they do have a certified speed test platform that individuals can use to submit speed test data. So they can say Town of Bourne or, so, but I understand the route you're going to take.
Well, for the CAI, it's totally different. But for
Right.
the individuals, they say that on the landing page, there's a thing that tells people how they can submit data
Yeah.
acceptably,
Yeah.
except that there isn't. It's not there. I
I
just
went-
looked this morning.
Because we did a
Indeed.
walkthrough. We did a walkthrough of the whole process at the workshop.
Oh, absolutely. And then we did the same thing at the CAI thing
Oh,
yesterday.
Okay.
But there's no
It's not
force-
active? Is that what you're saying? Well, it's not June 20th either.
But
It's not
we
June
need to
20th,
discuss
so
this
you won't be
before
able
we
to
go
do it
too
until
far.
June. You won't be able to start the speed testing until June 20th. So that it might not be active, but it can be done. I'm guessing that it's not going to be active until June 20th because that's the timeline, June 20th to July 20th for speed test. My guess is they
There's
just
no-
haven't opened the portal.
There's no
Sorry,
guidelines for
Brian.
what's acceptable for them to submit. Go,
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, so we need, we got to make sure we are clear. There's 2 separate problems, the CAI problem and the speed tests for that. So like, these are 2 separate opinions on this. The CAI tool, although clunky and asking for a lot of data, is probably gonna work. Like it's not good, but it's not as catastrophic as say the area challenge problem. Yeah, they want a lot of data. Yeah, it's onerous. It's too many requirements. We're just gonna have to force the 50, 60, 70 community anchors in, try and grab the data and force it in. And to do that, we kind of just need an account as the town to upload all that. The area challenge is a separate issue because the Sanborn software is not set up in a way that's going to be good on the Cape. So if individual citizens directly use that software, it's only designed to take 3 speed tests, and if it says all of them are good, it's not gonna trigger a challenge. And so the problem is our speeds drop so quickly that it's not designed for our problem. So for our problem is it just dies, and we need to catch like catching a rabbit. We got to catch the rabbit when it's dead 3 days in a row and submit it. And so the Sanborn tool is terrible for that, but it does have the submission option for us to manually take to 18 speed tests,
Yep.
you know, from a census block group that we
Right.
caught in bad and put them in. And so
Yes.
like, that's kind of
Yeah.
how we have to trigger the area challenge, because if they go through the Sanborn tool, it's kind of a waste of time and effort, because A, we don't know who's put anything in. MBI can't give us access to whose speed test is in there. So we have no visibility to what's going on. No visibility to then go to these people and say, hey, you know, we need to be taking speed tests like every hour until we catch this on prime time, you know, right around
Right.
6 o'clock on the
Right.
weekend
Right.
when it
right.
rains. You know, and it's only 6 per census block group. So we're talking like 30 people we have to handhold in the town to get this right. So we even asked MBI, can we block the Sanborn tool in Bourne and have them redirected to like a town contact? That's how not helpful it is for the area challenge in our area with the problem we face. So
So does
We
it
either
mean,
realistically-
Brian? So
Go ahead,
Brian,
Emery.
then you know, as we had conversation earlier about having a regional effort to do this and using, you know, an Open Cape having platform or the Cape Cod Commission setting up the platform so that they collect all of it and submit to MBI. That would you think that would better serve the issue of speed tests for the Cape or in our area?
yeah,
Okay.
I'd prefer that over the Sanborn tool. You know, 100 times out of
I absolutely agree. So this other anchor institution piece, I was under the assumption that like libraries, schools were automatically already considered anchor institutions.
No,
there's some
nothing's
disagreement on the data,
automatically
'cause
considered.
they were supposed to go out and gather. MBI was supposed to go and compile all this data, and they talk about this extensive process to do it. And we were like, okay, give us the CSV file, and we only got 3 anchor
Yeah.
institutions and Bourne on it. But
Okay.
then when we talked to them, they're like, oh, you have the wrong list. It's like, well, it's the list you provided us under public record law. And they're like, well, you have the wrong list. And we're like, okay, so can you give us the right list? And so they owe us the right list that,
Okay.
you know, isn't on their website. So that, you know, at least the idea is, okay, I've couched it as, let's cut the amount of institutions we have to submit and you have to look at. Give us the correct list so we know what's like left to put in.
Okay, let me see if I can do a little more research on that and see if we can't get some answers with respects to Bourne and what's on the list.
Anne Marie,
With
what
this
we would
idea
like
that
to do, let me
we
just
needed
interrupt.
the town as the town, could we be the people to do that? Or do we have to like get somebody in the town administrator's office who doesn't have time to do this?
Well, what's the pathway? What's the avenue? I mean, what's the plan to be able to get that information?
I need an account as the town to submit it. And I'm flying in from the other side of the planet to do this one way or another. So let me know who we're submitting it as, and let's get an account and let's get it done.
Okay,
Again, try to minimize burden on the administrator's office. I just remember, apparently it took 5 hours of somebody's time to get the CostQuest license submitted, which is an inordinate amount of time, but we just want permission to go ahead and do that. What we're doing is we're not making decisions. We're submitting data and verifying the correctness and completeness of data that MBI has or supposedly has. So we just want permission to do this on our own without having to involve or waste the time of somebody who really doesn't understand this in the administrator's office. You know, under the dictum of that's been what we've been requested to do is minimize burden on the town administration.
So let us do it.
so you need a point person in the account with MBI. It's an MBI account, I'm assuming, and it's a point
Yeah.
person that, okay.
Right.
We probably directly need the account login and the ability to submit the data we've collected.
An alternative, and again, this is somebody who's pretty burdened with other things, is perhaps the county or the Cape Cod Commission could be
Yeah.
entrusted to submit these CAIs. Again, this is a you know, a GIS type of a screening. Brian had volunteered to hire a GIS person that he has available. And one tool that we have is the Mass GIS database, which would have some of the initial data for some of these institutions. But I know like the VFW up on Shore Road, they do assistance for veterans, for both benefits and substance abuse issues, et cetera. Certainly something like that would qualify. A number of the churches do this. And, if the initial list from MBI only had 3 institutions on it, clearly that is a very inadequate list.
Oh, and in the chat, in the Zoom, I had started to summarize the MBI meeting and what they agreed to get us. It's not the list of stuff that we talked about and they didn't have a good answer for. This is the ones they made commitments to provide us. Also, they shared some stuff on the speed testing about how they intended to directly follow NTIA, and got some good advice from the Cape Cod Commission to get that in writing. So
good luck with that. I'm looking at this stuff here. Anybody can submit evidence on issues with availability, speed limit, data cap, and business service only. If you're a member of the public who would like to submit a resident submission, but for creating a challenge, you need to have units of local government, tribal governments, nonprofits, or ISPs. So you can't, a CAI cannot, can't do this.
But the
Not only
fact
do
that,
they
Wendy,
make it
the fact that
difficult to
they
be-
exist as a CII, basically, it means they're on the map and but by definition, they're eligible for a gig. Okay.
well, right
Theoretically.
now we only have 3 places on it. So there's no CAIs in Bourne that are eligible for funding because, well, and that was actually another definitional issue. Is the Open Cape Enterprise Service at $5,000 a month a qualifying gig service, or is enterprise products exempted? So that's something they owe us and they have to go back to NTIA on. But effectively right now, by most reasonable interpretations of what we know, there's no CAIs in Bourne until we add them.
This is such bullshit. You would not believe this.
We're on TV, Wendy.
I know, I'm trying not to say it out loud.
Wendy, it's the quiet part out loud. No. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, we're having to put personal stuff aside to come and do this because it's the only way it's going to get done.
I know, but I mean, I don't know if you can even see this. It just goes on and on and on, and it's nonsense.
So what I'm trying to glean out of all this is what you're saying is there's no way us as a committee working for the select board that we could submit this material, or can we submit this material if we are given permission by the select board to do it? That's the question.
If we're
I think we have the ability to do it. It's the question:
Yeah.
do we have the permission to? We have.
Okay.
I think if we all work together and are careful, we can do this. It's going to be the least efficient thing we've ever done because the information is coming out at the last possible second. But I think we do have the required knowledge base to do this, or at least make a good attempt at
I don't
this.
think there's any question about our knowledge base. The question is, do we meet the criteria for them to accept anything from us? And that one of theirs is local government.
Yeah, we
Right,
need to be the
select
government
board
to do
will
it.
the select board be happy calling us part of local government enough to make
No.
it so they have to listen to us? That's the
No,
question.
that's not going to happen.
There you
That's
go.
the answer to
Committees
the
are-
question I was looking for.
Only elected, right? Only elected boards are considered town governments. Committees
can we
aren't
be
considered town
delegated?
don't qualify under, town governance by the definition. So that's the hiccup, right, with MBI.
The hell of a hiccup,
and the
don't you
reason
think?
why
Because they
we-
know that
I-
local governments don't have the time for it.
I don't disagree with that at all.
But like, who else are they expecting it to be? Like, the select board's got to delegate someone to do it. So like, is that like a technicality that's making like a town committee delegated the authority to do this?
To
Like, is
collect
this like a-
data, right? Part of your charge is to collect the
Yeah.
data, and this is data
we
collection.
exist. We entirely exist because this challenge was coming and we saw it a year in advance. Like,
Right.
like the
Right.
select board should be able to delegate this authority. Like, is this even a question that if we are delegated the authority by the select board to do this, MBI won't accept SciTech submitting it? Like, can't the
They-
town just request
They
the account?
won't accept it, exactly. The authority has to be town governance
Well,
by
that's
way of
understandable,
what
certainly.
MBI is, right? By the whole challenge, because they answer to NTIA. I mean, it's the way politics works. It's the way
So
it
the
all goes,
license would be,
unfortunately.
the license would be
This
in
is
the name of the
insane.
town
Like,
of Bourne.
why can't the select board, with their authority, delegate the job to whomever they please?
It's a
Right, yeah, they can,
license.
right. So I think the process would be that the select board would delegate to the committee to collect the data. The data comes back to the select board and the select board votes to submit it.
What we have, let me cut to the chase here. We have within our charter the instructions to collect data to advise the select board. Let's go and collect the data. We're just charge ahead. Let's collect the data. What is the deadline for submitting this to MBI? Wendy, did they say that in the on the
Well-
CAIs on the
Well,
call?
the deadline for submitting by a licensed or registered agent, such as a town or an ISP, the data are supposed to be starting to roll in June 20th.
When's
But
the deadline for
the problem is
completing the
all-
roll-in?
It's all
Um,
PEI though, so like, we can't like present it in a public meeting before the select board.
It's July
July
20th.
20th.
So is it, Brian? I mean,
Okay.
you're saying that CAI data is personal information?
So the complete packet would include a bill of a financial account with its number along with an address, which
Right.
triggers the Mass CMR 201-17
Yeah.
data privacy law.
Yeah.
So the CAI, you have to submit your account number with your ISP?
So sorry, there's two separate problems. The area challenge.
No, we're
has
talking
a bill
about the CAI
requirement.
list. Yeah, we're only talking about
The
the
CAI list, I haven't studied it, but I haven't come across any PEI yet in the CAI
Right,
problem.
right. So where Bob, I think, was going, if I could jump in here, Bob, is
Please do.
the committee would go out and collect all the CAI data, package it up, bring it to the select board and say, please submit this to MBI.
Let me go one
Uh-huh.
step further. If in fact there's some PEI data that's in there, we ask them to consider looking at the package in executive session because it contains confidential information, the same way they would a bid package.
If we had to,
And
yeah, if
approve,
we had to.
registering at the portal as the town and submitting it in one package.
Right. Well, my
the
suspicion is that the CIA data is all public information.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
The purpose of doing this, of getting the CAIs register, is so the CAIs can challenge their designation, and that's like a whole separate step.
We might need the CAIs the anchors to provide some stuff because we don't have the final list of what's required. So
Let's go even further. Let's cut to the chase here in terms of using the 1 gig lines or feeders to these CAIs. We can be very judicious when we see these things lay out on the like the Mass GIS map where they are. We know where Verizon has served or is going to serve. We know what's very close to Open Cape, and then identify places where we'd like to get service. There might be places in Sagamore or Sagamore Beach where we'd like to get there's a community anchor there. We want to make sure there's service there, and from that position, whomever can provide branch out service more easily. So we get secondary feeders, not quite last mile, but secondary feeders in areas where we know there's lack of service. Monument Beach won't need service anymore because Verizon goes right there. Pocasset may. The post office building in Katomet may. I'm just throwing ideas out here. Those are all places where communities meet. There might be some churches that provide service to people with addiction problems. They might be eligible for a gig service. But if we can find those where they are on the map and then judiciously identify what those are, and pound on those organizations to get all the other information that we can't get publicly. So we don't get every single one in town. We get ones where we know the service would be, it'd be advantageous to get a gig line to. Does that make sense?
You're being too nice. You just put them in, and Verizon then rebuts the CAI based on upcoming planned service. So we don't even have to worry about where Verizon's going. We just load the CAIs in, and Verizon gets the list and say, "Oh, hey, we're going to be building there in 3 months. Don't fund grant money to that church because that does addiction, because we're already building."
Well, yeah, but having said that, we don't spend time chasing after all kinds of ancillary data that are on the CAI requirements for places we know that are going to get served. We look for the holes in the service map. I'd love to get they're over the line. I hope somebody in Plymouth takes care of them. I'd love to get service to the Wampanoag Meeting House that's up on Herring Pond Road, but that's physically inside the town of Plymouth. Just that certainly is a community anchor. Just those examples like that where there are huge holes in service. But we don't need to document that for every single one of them. We find the most crucial ones and get the data in for those. So we've only got so much time and physically, so much energy among the six of us, and it really is only the six of us.
The question is, do we have to get the town to register first before we even proceed with this?
Yes.
To submit. So that's the first thing we have to do. And I got caught the select board meeting that Bob attended, and I didn't quite catch the drift, but I kind of thought they inferred that, well, you need to come to us with an individual specified request rather than something broad. Is that pretty much sum it up, Bob?
It's got to be, I would say it has to be quite focused. Okay.
Right.
And again, going by the complexity of getting the Cost Quest license through the town government, I think, Anne Marie, what I'd like to do is have a small item on the agenda for the select board based on our recommendation, and I'll write an email to request that the administrator apply for a license.
For the Cost Quest license, or
No.
to-
A license to be able to submit the CAI information.
Oh, you mean, okay. Is it called a license though, or is it just an
Just
account
an
with
account.
MBI?
It's called
Just
an
an
account.
Yeah.
That
Sorry.
might sound less threatening.
I'm just still confused why. Also the Plymouth thing. There didn't seem to be any restriction at one town that you had to stay within your town borders, as long as you were a authorized submitter. So we could just drop the Herring Pond Wampanoag sites that we already know in the list. But
just point out that they serve tribe members in the town, town. Okay,
so
we'll do
that's
that.
a non-issue, but it's like, I just don't get why we can't, say, craft some kind of motion that the select board delegates the submitting of speed tests and community anchors, and we run that by MBI to be sure that they will accept the data, and if not, we convene in, July's meeting to run the data by the select board again before it gets submitted. The town administrator can do it. Like, I just can't understand why we can't preemptively say, this is coming, this is what we're going to do, get the permission, and if MBI isn't going to accept this method, just come back. And so that avoids multiple trips to the select board to handle something that really could be done in a 5-minute conversation.
Well, let me draft an email to, I'll send it to all select board to MJ saying that we request that the town apply for an account. In the meantime, as part of its one of the elements of its charter, we are collecting data on community anchor institutions, and as we aggregate this, we request permission to do screening submittals to MBI to be sure the data are acceptable to them, and that we intend sometime before the July 20th closure to have a package that the select board can review and submit through the account to MBI.
Right. Well, we need to know what that cutoff. We know that the survey ends on July 20th, but do we know what the submission deadline date is?
I need all of that information. I need the details. If somebody can just get it to me, the details on where one applies for the account, the webpage, et cetera. I mean, this has to be absolutely spoon-fed to whomever is tasked with doing this. So they don't have to ask any questions. But anyway,
the submissions are reviewed on a rolling basis. So like the downside of doing this is like we have no feedback from MBI. So if we're able to submit them as we get them, we can get feedback as we go and find out if there's problems in advance. So like waiting and sending it all in one go is going to make everything, both the area challenge thing more likely to fail and the CAI thing more likely to fail. It's like we need to just start dropping in packages and then asking MBI, is this one accepted based on what we have? And if we find out, hey, you're missing a, parcel tax ID or something stupid, we just just add that to all the future ones. So I feel like we lose the benefit of any feedback from MBI by waiting to the last second and submitting all in one go.
Okay, well, I can say that in a letter to the select board, basically. And again, we're only submitting data. MBI is going to judge based on their criteria or some catch-22 perhaps that they haven't told us about yet, but we need feedback on that, so we need to start being able to submit that. But
well, I gather from the website that Wendy was kind enough to forward, I look at it and you're right, you click on the either citizen or community institution, you click on it and it says coming soon and nothing's happening. So like they're not even listing where you have to.
No, it's all there.
Where you apply for the license, and you're talking about this stuff is going to start in a week, basically.
Yep. And it also says community anchor institutions, organizations like libraries and schools that facilitate internet use. This isn't necessarily somebody that uses the internet to help people. They have to facilitate internet use, and I think that's they're gonna like ditch the churches that have AA meetings coming in by Zoom, because that's not really facilitating internet use in the way they think they're talking about. Like how the library has hotspots, or the schools have hotspots for kids to
wasn't
use.
there just a separate line item for addiction treatment places, so that in order to include those? So
who the heck knows? I'm looking at their opening splash page.
It's confusing and ever updating and changing.
Well, it does say nonprofit organization is listed along with tribal government, and those are But again, you click on the link, nothing. It just is coming soon.
Yeah, there's nothing here.
There's nothing.
Regardless, presuming it does appear by the 20th. I just want to inform the select board beforehand that we are in fact doing this. Ask them to apply for an account and make that available to us. We start submitting some of these data mainly so that we can get feedback to know whether we're doing it right. Okay. And if they turn us down, that's neither here nor there, but I can't see the select board having any detailed objections to us trying to provide better internet service to anchor institutions that deal with substance abuse. I mean, clearly, that's vanilla. It's just a matter of making the applying for the license and then making that number available to us so we can start uploading this stuff.
Public
Because
safety as
I'm
well.
sure-
That's like public safety facilities are all eligible as well. So that's an interesting one because Bourne being a coastal community, you could make the argument that since the town owns all the entries to the water, those are a public safety issue because we've had people die in these locations. So potentially you make the argument the boat landings are all community anchor institutions under public safety. It's these kind of things we need to put into MBI and have them tell us, yes, no, or maybe, but because you're missing this information. And if it's we got to go back and get a note from the fire chief that they consider these essential, something. We don't know yet what we don't know, and I think we need to be the authority to act as quickly as humanly possible, since MBI will keep changing the rules like quicksand under us every day. So we need the flexibility to do this.
I'm not sure they think they're changing the rules. I think they think they're just clarifying because they weren't clear enough in the first place to write clear stuff.
What they think and the reality we're working in is it's probably not worth discussing, but it's the information we have changes constantly.
Okay,
Yeah.
but we need to move on here. But what I'm going to say with regard to CAIs is I'm going to write a letter, an email to the select board requesting that they apply for an account, and somebody is going to give me the website, the web address for where they apply for that account. And even if it is to appear, we'll tell them that. And as soon as it appears, we need them to apply, and that we are going to start running presumptive community anchor institution information, submitting it through MBI in order to get feedback as we go along to make sure we're doing it right, because the rules are so complex. Period.
They won't accept it. MBI won't accept it from you.
Well, but if I have an anchor account, once we have the anchor account,
If we have the town's
whatever the
account,
submittal
why
account
can't
is.
They have
the
to
town
approve
gets an
that.
account, we put it in.
Yeah.
Why are we doing mental gymnastics on something simple? The town has an account, we put in the data, it's public data, we've moved it from the left pocket to the right pocket.
Exactly.
We gotta keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Okay,
that's how
I'm going to go ahead. Anne-Marie, go ahead.
And that's how the account is set up, because when we did the walkthrough online, there was a listing of, so for instance, if the town has the account on MBI, you don't need login information. You can go to that landing page, click on the town that you're affiliated with and the information you want to submit about, right? You can click on that affiliation, and then it'll take you to the next step to be able to submit the data that you want to submit. That's the process that we went through in this online workshop. So I don't think it's going to be too big of a lift. And like I said before, nothing's active until June 20th. But I think the account can be established as of June 10th. That's what I read.
It's live now. There's
It's
multiple
live
towns
now, right? So
listed.
you won't see us on there until we activate an account, and then any individual, even when we do the speed test challenge, even residents can individually go and say I'm in the town of Bourne, I'm with Bourne, and submit the data themselves if they so choose. But it's obviously it's a little better to submit as a batch and upload as much data as we can.
Okay. Well, in any case, we need the either permission for us to do it or for the administrator's office to do it is to open an account.
But I just shared this
In the
screen
chat.
Is
Is
it, I
the
don't know,
link
is
to
this
do
where
it.
is this where you do it, Anne Marie? This is where they show you, this is where you supposedly can click on one of these and this is where nothing happens. Is this where, Anne Marie, is this where they told you we can submit?
Check the chat. I added the link to where you
Okay.
get an account.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
But it's not open. It's not functional.
So
Also-
that's where you would click on the challenge portal.
Okay.
But you're right, it's not June 20th. They're not gonna activate it.
It's active. I'm staring at it right now. Like I just put it. Click the link in the chat, pop it open, and request an account. Pretend you were going to do this. And
No,
you
yeah,
can
for the
say,
account, for setting up the account, we're talking about the, the challenge and stuff. Going to the next steps on that
Oh.
portal.
I think we need the town administrator to officially request the portal access as Bourne, and then all of us can just get a sub account. It's the way it looks like it's set up.
Well then,
Okay.
Yeah, it looks simpler than I expected. We just have to have it requested.
Okay, just to be clear,
and
pardon my ignorance here, but this request a new account page is for both the challenge and also for the CAI submittal? Yes, no?
Yes. Sanborn's mapping tool, and it's all of them. They're handling all of it.
Okay. Well, again, I think it's important that we, even if we submit separately through the Cape Cod Commission or Open Cape, I think we ought to apply for an account. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to make full use of it if there's another easier way. Okay, let me again, if anybody, let me know if you have any objections, but I will get an email off to the select board and to copy to Marlene, asking them to request an account for the town of Bourne. Let me see the category.
Yeah, we start gathering data and just hold back from giving it to anyone for a couple of days till the select board has deliberated on that. So we just got to continue gathering given the timeline.
Okay. So that's straightforward. Okay, let's move on through the through the agenda. But again, Brian, we can talk offline about what data your GIS person needs to download, what we think is publicly available. And maybe we can
Mostly
go
it's just Excel files from the assessor, and I'm just going to probably do it myself and CSV it. If we have the addresses, we just pull the data. Like it's just a formula in Excel. I used to teach Excel a long time ago. I can open up my notes and move data around. Like we just got to get it done, and we got to get it in. And we got MBI's feedback as fast as
Well, again, my request is to be judicious about this, so to make sure that we don't waste our time trying to chase data for facilities that are going to be served anyway.
Arguably, if the data, we need just the master data sets, and it's going to be the same function to do 1 or 500 of them. So, like,
Okay.
get the updated list from the assessor, get the list from whatever state department generated the whatever we need, and just click a formula, pull it, and move it, match and move.
how is this gonna work when? I mean, just for giggles, I called up the Pecasset Community Center building. And it says that it's served by Xfinity with 1200 down and 35 up.
It's got to be gig symmetrical. So it does, the up is generally you can ignore the down in the Cape and just look at the upload.
Okay. And upload is supposed to be a minimum of 20 to call it broadband?
No, for community anchor institutions, it's a different set of rules. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, in any case, let's move on. We've got a lot of else left on the agenda. With regard to the challenge, as soon as actionable or workable information comes out from Open Cape on their portal, how do we want to disseminate this? Do we want to try it in the basically going through? You mentioned some of the the events that happen around the Strawberry Festival, etc. Do we want to do it through the Bourne residents page? That only gets the year-round residents. It doesn't get the summer people.
No kidding.
Through the enterprise, a link in the enterprise,
Yep,
All,
if they'll
all
print
of the
it.
above.
All
all
of
of
the
the
above,
above.
sure.
I'm
I-
gonna be eating in coffee shops, asking people to come to their house and let me run a speed test. Like, we need to force this. You know, this is our last and only chance to solve the problem with a funnel of cash. Like, let's keep our eyes on it. It is a literal dump truck of cash that is going to flow to Bourne if we succeed.
And just recall again that not Open Cape, MBI believes that there are very few underserved areas, and they're going to have a huge pot of money left over as their slush fund to dole out as they see fit for digital equity. And I would much prefer that we identify real underserved areas and then get them to serve those before. And we provide the information rather than them to say, okay, we're going to do X, Y, and Z for digital equity, and you may or may not get any money in Bourne. Anyway, okay, moving on. Next Thursday is when the portal opens. So if everybody wants to start thinking of places where we can submit the information from Open Cape about doing the testing, we need to start thinking of both places and events and media outlets where we can publicize this. And the crucial thing is to make sure we get as many tests as possible done over the July 4th weekend when every single house is filled here. Okay, moving on. American Connection Corps. Anne Marie, my recollection from the select board meeting is we talked briefly about that, but there seemed to be just nodding agreement that, gee, there might be some resources here, but this is another position that probably ought to sit at the Cape Cod Commission, and Bourne could request access from time from this person depending on his or her capabilities. Is that a fair summary?
Yes. Now, do you know if the county has received an AmeriCorps volunteer or intern for the summer? Did they apply for the grant and receive an AmeriCorps intern for the summer for their IT?
Scott McFarland from the AmeriCorps office said that there is one designated from Barnstable County. Okay,
Oh,
so we
okay.
don't know whether that has been assigned. The position does not start until September.
Yeah, so that's useful.
Okay.
We probably need to reach out to someone in county and get it rolling, because MBI has come up with the money and come up with the organization to do it. So I think we might need to bug somebody to get the ball rolling at the county government. I don't know what the process is for that.
I will send an email to Steve Tupper and ask whether they've applied.
The Cape Cod Commission or the county's office, county commissioner's office?
Where does AmeriCorps sit?
I don't think it sits with the Cape Cod Commission, right?
Okay.
I may be wrong on that, but I assumed it was with not the Cape Cod Commission, but in the county and other entity of the county commissioner's office. I mean, the email probably should go to Mark Forrest.
Okay. I'll send one to Mark Forrest and just request just what the status on that is. Okay, enough of that. GAP round 2. Brian has been doing a lot of work on editing questions. I apologize. I've been sidetracked with other issues, and I haven't been able to respond to what you put up there. Brian, would you like to summarize what's going on with regard to questions about GAP 2?
Well, they had a deadline for questions for GAP 2, so I basically took all the questions MBI has ignored or couldn't answer or they had bad answers for, and just resubmitted them so that we didn't miss the deadline. So they can't say we didn't ask in time. But it's essentially all the same stuff we've always wanted to know about the co-funding waiver and why there's broadband debt requirements in there. nothing, I'm not asking anything we haven't discussed ad nauseum. I just made sure it was in and not late for the questions deadline. We asked MBI directly some of the gap concerns, and we had some interesting discussions with them, and they didn't intend to block small towns by the way they worded this. They thought they were being inclusionary to the Western Mass towns that already had networks. And they kind of sensed remorse that they didn't have this conversation with us 6 months ago. But we had sent them letters 6 months ago, so I don't know why they didn't read the concerns about the language, because we responded to it within the comment period for gap. So I don't know why they don't read those and fix these things, but they said gap is basically the funding for it is an intergovernment funding source. So they got it from, correct me if I got it wrong, the Office of Economic Development sent money to MBI for this. And so they're saying due to intergovernmental contract, they can't fix the co-funding waiver wording. But what's odd is MBI rolls up to the same cabinet secretary as economic development. It's all the same branch of the same part of the government. So how is the same group not able to fix their own problem?
So Brian, I had a different impression of that with that conversation. First of all, I thought their feedback told me that they really meant this money for Western Mass. That was their intention. Basically, they wanted it to go to municipalities with broadband debt. That was, a distinction they made in the proposal. So when Jennifer was talking about the changing the co-funding, what I thought I heard from her was basically legally they can't do it because the funding's already been released. And for them to make the change, they would have to basically reject all the existing funding and start the whole process over.
But the funding correct. I agree with you. The funding didn't go to Western Mass though. It only went to, it didn't.
Right, but I don't think it worked the way they thought it would, because none of the municipalities in Western Mass actually applied. But that was basically what I think it was Jody that kind of went down that road and said it was really intended to go there. It was Jody or something. I don't remember if it was her or not. But on the co-funding thing, I think Jennifer basically said, legally we can't do that. It's, you can't go and change the funding rules after you started doling out funding.
So, it's weird because, we warned them this is what was going to happen. Small towns that don't already have the broadband debt weren't going to do it. So this is a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, and the other thing they said too is that, we don't do public review of our funding rules. We decide what we're going to do when we release them. I mean, and then you live with them. Basically, there's no public comment period to gather feedback on what the funding rules are going to be.
We put letters in advance of the BEAD and gap comment periods, and they just flat out ignored them. So
right. Well, they said that's not part of the process.
Why would we want to have that part of the process? I mean, really.
We participate in the process that they've ignored, but they've put online just for legal.
I'm not saying that I agree with it. I'm just trying to, that was my impression of what they said to us. That's all I'm putting out there.
I was being too nice, I guess. You basically called it what it was. Call a sheep a sheep. This money was meant for Western Mass, but didn't get there.
Yep.
So
I'm gonna again. There's other than complaining. There's nothing we can do about this now. We're not in a position to hire a lawyer to file a legal challenge on Gap Round 2 or anything like that. So unless somebody sees a way forward where we can viably access these funds, apply for these, and have a chance of getting them, I'm just going to cut this off right now. I mean, there are hoops that are set up that we're not going to be allowed to jump through. So I don't see a way around that.
I think I am in agreement with you. A gap is only useful as a political tool to highlight the incompetence or incompetence is the wrong word. The sometimes questionable intent of some of these programs. And I think it's only worth discussing is that we're never going to get a gap grant based on the current rules.
Folks, I've been doing this for 40 years now and representing, agencies on both sides of the issue. And I've been listening to people and complain about the way government disbursements, et cetera, have been set up. And the crucial thing is to find an opportunity where the agency is violating its own rules or is doing something that's clearly illegal. And otherwise, you have to live with whatever rules they use and however they interpret them. And, there's other than to complain, there's nothing else we can do. So I'm going to cut that off too. Sorry, Brian. Thank you for submitting those questions. We'll see if we get any actionable answers back that might facilitate us getting a grant application in, but I'm pessimistic. Okay. Moving on, residential retrofit program. As far as I know, Bourne was not awarded anything under these. None of the 4 facilities in Bourne received any funding. It's unclear whether Verizon, I know Open Cape, I don't think did even submit, and then it's unclear whether Verizon submitted to serve these 4 buildings. By the way, one piece of information with Verizon, I saw Verizon and some other contractor trucks laying fiber from MacArthur Boulevard heading west towards County Road. They're out there as we speak. And the guy was up in the bucket truck. Otherwise, I would have called and stopped and asked him who he was working for. If anybody has any more information, let us know. There may be another rollout coming along here pretty soon.
I will dig around with my friends from Verizon and ask if anything's going on. If they've heard anything, and I'll let you know.
It looked like there were both Verizon trucks and a company called Bryant.
Yeah, Bryant has been the one that I've
Fiber.
seen down in Katomet, and Brian knows them. They are a private contractor, and they do everything from an institutional install to municipal work. And as I said, I saw them down in Katomet near the Falmouth border a couple of weeks ago, and the truck on the side said fiber. They were definitely doing fiber work.
Oh, definitely it was fiber. It's just
Right.
a matter
The question
of
is, right, who's it for? Is it for Verizon? Is it for Open Cape? Is it for who knows? And it could be Verizon, but it could be something private, like you said, a link to one of their little CO, for instance. It may not be, a public service. We just don't know yet. And they're being obviously very closed-mouthed. But I'll reach out to my friend from Verizon and see if he's heard anything.
I did put an address in on that stretch of Barlow's Landing Road from Verizon, and they said we'll inform you when we provide service. It's not available now, unlike Monument Beach.
Being cagey with the way the grant rules are under BEAD, I can see why they wouldn't want to say anything. Part of the ranking is the cost per passing. So if they've already run the trunk route down the main roads, and then they can cut their supposed cost to deploy. So maybe but we don't know. Is everything we know is speculation based on trucks moving around because they won't say anything. So
Right.
it could explain the caginess.
Okay. The next thing is in public outreach. We've talked about this already based on our desire to use the Open Cape's media kit and give people access to the Open Cape testing portal, neither of which are up or running right now. So, we kind of have to stay tuned. If I do find information on this call, and it is Monday morning, again, because we're all listening, I will circulate it to everybody. If it looks like it's going to be a two-way street, I'm going to designate 2 or 3 people as the only ones who can ask questions and limit that deliberation to the 2 or 3 people. Anybody else just turn your microphone off and listen. The next item is just feedback on our,
Bob, just before we leave that item, I just want to reiterate that at the last meeting, we voted to distribute that information as soon as we got it.
Yes.
yes, yep.
And the select board
Um,
agreed to distribute the packet of Open Cape as soon as it became available, so.
Right. So let's again, Wendy, let's you and I talk about a judicious way to present this, and perhaps to provide links on the Bourne residents page, and then another article to the I guess to the enterprise, and maybe I hope they're putting something into the Cape Cod Times. I hope Open Cape is doing that themselves. We can do the enterprise if they're not. I did ask Jen that as soon as she gets this to publicize it on the 4 enterprise Upper Cape papers. She wasn't even aware what they were. So
Oh,
I
great.
gave her the links.
Again, just to be clear, what we agreed is that we would forward the press release and media kit from Open Cape. That was
Right.
That's what we would do.
Right. And if anybody would submit to me a list of upcoming events in Bourne where we can stand on a street corner and hand out flyers to people, be glad to do that. You know, Strawberry Festival is one, and that's easy. My wife is on the board of the Bourne Historical Society. In fact, I think she has me working that day, and I'll just get some more help to hand these things out. The concerts is another one. Any of the other events? Anne Marie, do you recall any other events that are coming up in Buzzards Bay Park where there's going to be gatherings of people that are there for other purposes?
Well, there are some that happen after the 4th of July. I mean, the 4th of July parade is a huge one. But I mean, there are individual types of events that are happening in Buzzards Bay Park, you know, like people solicit to use the park for birthday parties and weddings. And so those are all scattered among, you know, the next couple of months. But huge events, I mean, Canal Day doesn't happen until
September.
September. Yeah. So as
If
far
you
as
think
big,
of
big
any,
events with a lot of people, I mean, I mean, you can look on, one of the places to look on is the Cape Cod Commission website. They do have an events calendar.
okay,
And you can probably see some events that might be listed there. I'm
Right,
trying to
so-
think.
The Chamber of Commerce has lists a lot of this stuff, I thought, and sponsors a lot of it. Stuff
Yeah.
that goes on in Buzzards Bay.
Right. Yeah. We just voted on their, you know, concerts in the park series and those types of things. Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one of the concerts in the park that I recall that's going to happen during the challenge period, but we can't. We certainly should use that as an opportunity and just say, we need your help now, big letters, and just hand flyers out. I hate scattering paper all over the place, but I don't see any other way to reach individuals.
Well,
You know,
Open Cape had that's where I picked up a bunch of stuff last year. I went to one of the concerts, and Open Cape had a table, and they were handing out all kinds of promotional stuff and flyers, which wasn't really, you know, basically it was great for people that lived in Buzzards Bay, not much for us.
Okay.
Well, that's my question, is that there are plenty of people in Buzzards Bay that already wonder why we're even bothering about this, because their service is fine. We need to reach more people on this side of the canal.
Yeah, again, you know, Strawberry Festival and a few of the others are big events coming up once we have the information. Strawberry Festival is a week from Saturday, I believe. Okay. Anyhow, so we're just going to go and do it. If we have the information, you know, I'll go and at the Strawberry Festival, I'll print, you know, 100 flyers from that information and just hand it out and put a table up and say, here we go. You know, anybody who wants to improve their broadband service, they need to do this testing. Okay. The next is the select board presentation. essentially, in terms of publicizing the testing, really the only service we're going to get is to put something on the town website that we have to write, or we have to take the media kit presentation and put that up directly. That's really the only thing the town administration can do for us.
Well, yeah,
Is that
I think it was more specific than that. They'll put up the press release. Right, they're not gonna, I don't think that it sounded to me like they weren't gonna accept just something we wrote. They want the press release itself, and it would reference the press release on the town website.
Yeah. So we're limited to that.
Well, the
that-
press release and then any types of links or, right?
Any
Right.
links that come from the commission, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving forward, the next is the Tech Council. They've been holding Wednesday meetings about the testing. Again, there was just some discussion 9 days ago that I attended, and it wasn't real specific, of just awaiting the Open Cape delivery. Brian, were you able to be on the call yesterday?
Yeah, it was pretty short because there wasn't a lot to share. It was like 15, 13 minutes. And Open Cape wasn't on there because they didn't have anything to say yet. So I guess we're all waiting for bated breath for Open Cape's portal. The commission recommended we get some of the clarifications that MBI made in writing in regard to the speed testing, so that no one gets caught by surprise. And then it's clear to everybody. So everyone's not a lot of new to share in the past week.
Yeah, not real hopeful about detailed clarifications from those folks. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Presumably, if there's a Monday call with the Open Cape team, then there's going to be a Wednesday call with the Tech Council again, presumably looking at outreach. And we'll get on whatever coattails are of bigger organizations that are happening there. The Mass Broadband Coalition has an upcoming meeting, and I don't have it on the calendar. I sent Bob Espindola, who is now no longer officially a select board member in Fairhaven, but he just got reappointed as the citizen member of their internet broadband committee, who is reconvening the Broadband Coalition. I asked him, I said the most important agenda item on that should be the challenge testing, and sharing information among the many towns that participate there in terms of the challenge test, how to do it, what tools are available, and what we know or don't know from MBI. And I think that happens next week, and I will report back at our next meeting. Jed, in terms of other towns, just one question.
So, 3 things to report from Falmouth. One is that Boundless is backed out. They cited various business reasons, but didn't go into much more detail. The Falmouth Net has signed an agreement with CTC to do the comparison study. They haven't announced any dates or anything beyond the fact that they signed the contract. And the MLP is reorganized. They have 2 new members, David Eisenberg and I forget the other person's name. And then Courtney Bird, Ed Schwartz, and one other. They came back, so that's the 5 members, and then they reorganized. So they don't have any meetings on the agenda at the moment.
Could you possibly contact, I guess it would be the MLP, and just ask what they are doing to facilitate challenge testing? Just ask a question to whoever your point of contact is.
I could ask David. I mean, David Eisenberg's on the board. I kind of know him.
If they have,
I get the sense. I get the sense they're not doing anything.
Okay.
But I'll shoot an email to David, ask him.
I also got the sense from reading that perhaps some of the principals at Boundless might still want to be involved, but use some other vehicle for funding. Did you get that impression from that statement?
For funding,
Yeah, they were kind of talking about, well, it's not completely dead yet. It is through Boundless, but some of the key principles were saying there may be another way that we can still stay involved. And I
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thought they were
they,
implying,
right, the principal said they may still stay involved with MLP. I mean, it was very vague as to what exactly the Tilson would do with the MLP, or Boundless, I mean,
I just got that impression that maybe that they were saying we might go to some other source of funding and deal with it that way.
I agree it was vague. And it's like, this is just something we probably need to follow up with them, because I remember before this whole Boundless proposal was given to Falmouth, they had kind of intended Tilson to be Tilson and go do, design, build, and turn it over and tell us what it's going to cost kind of a proposal. So I wasn't even sure if that's what they're talking about, going back to just, their previous way they did things. So it was super vague whether
Yeah.
it's.
but they have to do it in public anyway, right? They're an MLP that they're gonna have to state what they're doing, so we'll just watch the MLP agenda.
Mhm.
We'll see if they even show up at the meetings. I mean, Tilson didn't show up at the last meeting.
Yeah, it sounds like they got cold feet, but that some of the principals might still be interested in some wayward way. We just don't know.
Yeah.
I just thought that they weren't entirely giving up, that they were maybe looking for some kind of investment bankers to jump in independent of Tilson and do this as more of a private equity deal.
Good luck to them,
Yeah. Well, I was just
frankly-
hoping that, you hope that if they cook a deal, that then they would come to us and say, well, we can lower the cost per subscriber by expanding, and then at least, talk to us. Talk to Bourne and see if there's interest.
Well, again, the comparison study, whenever that is finished, is going to be certainly instructive for us. We'll learn a lot from that. There's probably going to be some pro forma 20-year cost and payback models that are incorporated in there that are going to be instructive both in aggregate and maybe per user, since we're smaller than Falmouth, but still there's going to be some scaling there. Okay. If anybody talks to any of the other towns in any of these meetings, and just ask what they're doing in terms of publicizing the challenge testing, and maybe there's something we've missed, that some other tool that we can use that might help move this along. Okay, with regard to the next meeting, I would like to hold a meeting next week. Mainly because that's the first day of the challenge process. Prior to that, there's going to be there better be on Monday morning an Open Cape meeting. On Wednesday there'll be a Cape Cod Technology Council meeting. We will have some discussions probably before that about as soon as we see Open Cape's media kit, about when getting it on the town website, and then other venues for publicizing this, and we need to really start papering the streets and papering the internet as soon as this the portal opens with Open Cape. I don't see any way around that, and it frankly is going to have to fall to us.
So do you want to continue with the same agenda? Would it be a cut down agenda? Any additional items?
Well, for our detailed agenda, what I would eliminate is eliminate discussion of digital equity. There's nothing that we need to do immediately on that. And under the funding opportunities, at least for the time being, I would eliminate American Connection Core and residential retrofit. We can leave gap in there in case Brian gets some response back. Again, this is our working agenda as opposed to the public one.
Yeah.
Public outreach, I would put an II under Open Cape Media Kit, and the second one is assignments for people to contact different media and internet venues so that we can get and also person-to-person venues so we can get these the information on the street as quickly as possible across the whole town. The select board presentation and feedback that can be eliminated. There will be a tech council meeting. There may be a broadband coalition meeting before that, and liaison with other towns, just in case, Jed, you learn anything that the other
Sure.
towns are doing in terms of testing. So I think that's pretty much the agenda.
Okay.
To make sense?
Can I ask a question now that Tony is no longer going to be joining us? Is there any thought about moving the meetings back to 9 a.m.? I know for myself that's easier to handle, but I don't know how the rest of your schedules work.
I love the
I would
idea.
appreciate that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good for me. We
Okay.
also, you know, in any of these, any media we contact, say that, you know, we have a couple of openings on the committee, and the end of June would be a good time to apply.
Yeah, I've been after a couple of people that I thought would be good for them, and as so is so often common in small towns, they're already up to their eyeballs in many other things. And you know, if you want something done, ask a busy person, but sometimes they're just too busy.
Yeah, that's been my case for the last week.
Mm,
But so we're going to move the meeting time to 0900.
Yes.
okay.
So
Okay.
it's next week, Thursday, the 20th, 9 a.m. And then I have the agenda posted here that we're going to use.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll send this off to Maria.
Oh, and if I will be traveling on Monday, so I will be unreachable. So I won't be on any Open Cape call if that comes about. So someone else should probably step in.
Like I said, if I get the information about the Open Cape call, I'm going to send it to everybody, and I'll probably designate myself and two other people who can be off mute and can be asking questions, and anybody else. And please do not text or email any of us with immediate questions, because that's you know, a backdoor deliberation. We don't want to violate the open meeting rules. Okay, very good. I'm just trying to think in terms of schedule. As I said, certainly for that Monday meeting, I'm going to let everybody know about it, and we'll go from there. And let's just hope Open Cape has all of this stuff together, or we're going to be really behind the 8 ball. Okay, thank you very much, folks.
Hold up. Yeah, never mind. Don't worry about it.
Okay. No, Brian had a side question, etc., but we'll go forward. And again, if anybody has venues to go and publicize any of this, please send them on to me, and you know, we'll do what we can to get the information out when we have information to get out. And everybody have a great weekend.
Okay.
Thank you all.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
All right.